Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And we thank you once again for tuning into the Inside Agents. Of course, we're bringing to you guys another special episode. This episode is we'll be discussing boot deals with Iñaki Dominguez. He's the senior sports marketing and scouting manager with Adidas. And we are excited to have him here today. And we'll be discussing boot deals, everything that goes into boot deals, from how to get a boot deal to what it consists of on Adidas side to putting those deals together. So, Inaki, we thank you so much for joining us today. And Nate, take it away.
Yep. Just for the people listening, Iñaki has played at Cruz Azul in Mexico. He played with me in university, and he's honestly one of the most technical players I played with. I tell him all the time. We played in the midfield together, so he was my Iniesta, just connecting all the dots for us in the midfield. And it was so crazy because I ran into Iñaki a year later when we were watching the under 17 CONCACAF tournament, I think. And I was just watching some of my players there, and he was scouting for Mexico. So I thought it would be very interesting to have him come on and discuss boot deals, especially because Inaki deals with all of the boot deals for players under 20. So this may be for our viewers, the people who are just now signing their first boot deal. So he'll give us a better insight on how that looks, and he also knows what the bigger boot deals and senior boot deals look like as well. So, Iñaki, to dive into our first question, bro, can you explain to us what a boot deal actually is and what you do at Adidas?
Hi, Ned. Hi, Maggie. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I hope my English is good and everyone's able to understand. Okay, so a boot deal is basically a sponsorship from Adidas to the player, in which Adidas commits to supply the player a certain amount of product per year. Usually we give them 2 pair of boots each time we have a new model coming out, and we give them 4 packs of clothes per year. And also, we don't do this very often in scouting, but sometimes we include what we call club retainer and national team retainer, in which we pay the player money if he achieves to play the number of games per year that we agree with them. So they can also be paid, and they also have performance bonuses in case he's the top scorer of the season, or if he becomes champion with his team, stuff like that. So besides from only giving them product, we sometimes pay them.
Well, that is sick because I know that a lot of players that I speak to initially, even on the sports side, when they think of a boot deal, they literally think it's how you described it originally. You just sign off, you get some boots, you get some clothes, and then that's it. So to know that there are also performance bonuses involved, that's like really, really cool for the listeners to even know, because a lot of people don't. Go ahead, Maggie.
Absolutely, Nate. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Same thing happens for some of my guys that'll ask those questions as well. And so, Inaki, thank you so much for breaking down exactly what a boot deal is, which then kind of leads us into the next question: is how do you select players to represent the brand and offer them boot deals? Like, what goes into that process?
Okay, so what we do here in Adidas in Mexico, I don't know if they are doing it all around the world, but here in Mexico, we are the only brand that does this. I have a co-worker, Manuel, that he and I go every weekend to all the under 17 and under 20 games that are played in Mexico City, and we scout there. There we see players. We go for 2 reasons. The first one, to see the players that we already have signed with us, like so they feel like we are there for them, that we support them. And we also go to find new players. And if we like any player in that game, like we introduce with him, we give him a follow up. we mainly focus in players who are in the youth national team. It's really important for us because we have the objective to be the #1 brand in the World Cup 2026 that it's going to be played in Canada, Mexico, and US. So we have to be the brand with the most players in the national team. So that's why we are focusing mainly in players that play in the national team.
Oh man, that's
Awesome.
sick. Also, to speak on the national team, Mexico, as I know, so just to like branch off, how big um is it like on the player side when they think that Adidas is approaching them? Like, and how does that help you in regards to marketing players with the national team if they're with Adidas as well?
Uh, it all depends on the player, to be honest. Because, for example, there are players who we really like and who we offer way way much money, or we have better offer than other competitor, and they go with the other brand just because they like it better or because they feel more comfortable with them. But we also have the competitive advantage that the national team of Mexico is Adidas. So we have like unlimited access. Every time there is like a new call of the national team, we know who is going to come uh, way sooner than everyone else. And we have access to the practice. We have access like to everything. So that's a way like that we get to the player sooner than the competitors.
Yeah, I would think that makes a lot of sense because with young players, I'm assuming that all the time, once they make the national team headlines, that brands from all over the place are reaching out to them. So I know that when we met, I think that Adidas Mexico has done a great job in supporting you guys because from my standpoint, it seemed like you knew almost everything about every single player that was on the pitch. So even from a brand standpoint, I think that is important for you to know like as you approach players. Also, how do agents help you guys in boot deals?
Uh, to be honest, agents sometimes help and sometimes they don't. I understand their job is to get the best deal possible for their client, but for this reason, sometimes they ask like for too much money for young players who at the moment are not worth it. Maybe in a couple years they are going to be Messi, but right now they are not. So sometimes that makes the negotiation a little bit difficult. But there are agents who work really good, who knows the real value of their player at the moment, and maybe the player wants to ask for more money. They told them like, no, you are young right now, and this is not going to be your biggest contract in your career. Let's just start with a boot deal, and your best contract is going to come when you are around 24, 25. That's going to be your biggest contract. So they help us with the player, like to tell him to be
Keep
conscious of the type of contract he's getting, that not anyone gets a sponsorship from Adidas, and they help us sign the player easier. We have the two cases, the one that makes it difficult and the ones that makes it easier.
I agree totally. And when I talk to young players that I represent as well, they always assume that their first boot deal is going to be like hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're going to get this huge signing bonus. But like you said, there's a few cases where it happens where they get paid on performance, but also there's some times where you just it's important for the player to just keep a level head, wear the gear, and let their playing do the talking for them as the years go on. because like I was saying before, I know that many players get wrapped up when they hear like the pro players like the Messis and the Pogbas a part of the brand. They're like, wow, they're making so much money. How
Mhm.
can we do the same? But to just be represented by Adidas or any big brand at a young age, I feel like is a very important accomplishment.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree also. Uh, and, you know, we're just really grateful for you to kind of break down what really goes into the boot deals. I think sometimes people tend to think, some players tend to think, if I um, purchase a pair of Adidas boots and I hashtag it constantly on social media, maybe this will get the attention of an Adidas representative that could possibly get me a boot deal. Could you touch on social media and how does that play a role in terms of you scouting players to for boot deals?
Um, yeah, for example, as I told you, Manuel and I, we only attend games in Mexico City. So
Mm-hmm.
Mexico is a really big country. So many times players contact us via Instagram, or they get our phone number or something like that, or they just
Mm-hmm.
tag us in a lot of videos and stuff like that. And sometimes they do get our attention. And not to offer them a contract, but maybe we say like, oh, this guy plays really good, and I'll send him a pair of boots. And when he comes to Mexico City to play against Cruz Azul, Chivas, or America, I'll go see him and see if we can offer him something.
Awesome.
Quick question, Inaki, does the social following matter to you guys? Like, if a player has, let's say, 10,000, 20,000 fans versus 500 fans, do you guys look at players' social medias before and after you sign them?
And in the case of scouting, we don't really give a lot of importance in social media, because we know they are young, they are not playing in first division, they are not at their highest level of famous. But for example, we do have players in the professional level who we have them signed just because of their followers, because they have 2 million, 3 million followers, and they are not performing that well in the pitch. So it's like a balance between performing well in the pitch and social media.
Yeah, that makes sense because yeah, young players we don't expect to have the following, but when you start making the senior team and such, your following does matter. So it is important for just the young players listening to try to focus on building your brand early because although it may not affect you now, in the long run, it can affect your boot deals and things of that nature. So that's very important to know.
Exactly.
So, Inya, what is the most exciting thing you would say about your job? I know we've spoken about this, you being in the office versus being out, but let the viewers know, like, what do you enjoy about working for Adidas? Or, like, what's the most exciting thing you've done?
What I enjoy about working for Adidas is like I'm living my soccer dream in a different way. Because for example, last year I went to the under 20 World Cup, and we as Adidas we stay in the same hotel as the national team. We have all the we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. Like we are part of the team, you know. As a player, I never got to go to a World Cup or stuff like that. And now I'm living that dream in a different way. But I think that the most exciting thing about my job is when I see a player that I signed with the brand do big things, like when they make their debut in first division or score their goal in and their first goal in first division, or when they are selected in the squad for a Youth World Cup. It's a great satisfaction to see like your players develop, you know?
Yeah, that's like almost like agents because I would say the most rewarding part of the job is when your player performs well, or it
Yeah.
gets their first big contract, or scores their first big goal, or gets national team recognition. That's huge for me as an agent. So I can imagine for brands like Adidas, when you guys see, especially you, because you're dealing with players that are under 20, it's
Yeah.
more of, I would say, a risk, because you know how football is. Someone who's 17, 18, or maybe even 16 that signs a deal with you guys may not be that same player at all when he's 20, 21, 22, 23. So it's a big risk, but it is very rewarding when they actually work out in your guys' favor.
Exactly. It's really regarding. It's really a big satisfaction for us, especially because we try to have like a close relationship with all our players. And we try not to be like, oh, I signed you. I'm only sending you your boots and your clothes, and that's all. No, we try to chat with the players often, ask them how they feel, how they are doing in their teams, in the national team. So we have a really close relationship with them. We are more like friends, not only like the Adidas employee and the player.
Yeah, and I see that all the time on your social media. I see the young players always tagging you and thanking you, and I see that you're definitely out with them a lot. Just to speak on COVID now, how has COVID affected how you work with Adidas now, with players not playing?
Well, we are we have been trying to find a way to have them active on social media. We have sent them to how do you say? Um,
Like
Challenges.
packages?
We have sent them challenges in order to keep them like doing something at their homes, and so they can uh, upload Adidas content. So it's difficult because we don't have practice or games right now, but we sent them a playbook where there were 20 challenges and they have to do them, and uh, challenge another Adidas player in order for all of them to do it.
Yeah, I know that CONCACAF has canceled all youth tournaments for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
So how is that affecting you guys in your scouting and choosing players like for 2020? Are you guys like gonna slow down a little bit, or are you still gonna focus on trying to just find talent without necessarily knowing who's gonna sign for the national team? How does that work?
No, at the moment we have a freeze. We are not allowed to sign anyone. I think Nike is in the same situation. So like everyone is stopped right now here in Mexico. So we'll have to start again when the league starts again. But at the moment we are not signing anyone.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. That a lot of um, brands and just overall companies that usually would possibly sign players to whether it's endorsement deals or whatnot, everyone is kind of like on a freeze, just a standstill due to COVID.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see where football goes after this. Iñaki, I saw you were with Luis Suarez and Messi in Barcelona. Can you tell us about that experience and how these big athletes help you with signing younger ones?
Okay. Well, this happened because, as you mentioned at the beginning, I played in Cruz Azul in Mexico, and in Cruz Azul I had a teammate named Martín Cauterucho, who is from Uruguay. And a couple of years ago, he played along Luis Suarez in Nacional de Uruguay, and they still have a good relationship. So when I knew I was going to Barcelona for vacations, I told Caute if he could speak to Luis to see if there was a chance of meeting him and meeting other players of Barca. and he agreed. So I went to the Barca facilities and I got to meet them all in there. And Luis Suarez isn't an Adidas asset anymore, but Messi is, and I think he's our biggest ambassador. Uh, Many kids sign with us just because of him, because they want to have the same shoes, because they want to be like him, because Messi is Adidas and they want to be Adidas. So it really helped us. But in the other way, Nike has Cristiano Ronaldo, and it happens that guys don't want to come to Adidas because they want to be like Cristiano, you know?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard some, but I mean, three stripes all the way. Three stripes all the way.
I've definitely heard both sides. It's so interesting. So for America, I'm gonna just this is just me thinking off the top of my head, speaking to players. Like in North America, both the US national team and the Canadian national team are Nike brands.
Yeah.
So when I talk to players, I know that they're so big on like signing with the national team brand. So with Adidas, I'm assuming for you guys, like you guys are the biggest brand when players think like, oh, okay, like for my national team, if I want to represent a brand, I want to represent Adidas. And can you just go into some of the top players on the national team who wear your brand?
From the senior national team,
Yeah, from the senior national team.
okay, we have Chicharito, we have Carlos Vela, we have Rodolfo Pizarro, who just signed with Miami FC. We have Cesar Montes, who is going to probably leave this summer to Valencia or Porto.
Wow.
Who else do? And I think those are like the most famous.
Yeah, for sure. When you mentioned Chicharito and you mentioned Carlos Vela, those are the two global names I would say when you think of Mexican football. So for you guys to have them on your brand and the national team represented, I can imagine that the youth players like look up to those guys and they're like, wow, if they're wearing Adidas, I definitely want to be a part of that train.
Of course, like it's like their biggest dream to be like them, to have a career in Europe like them. But to be honest, that Adidas team here in Mexico just grew up last year. Before that, there was only one person in charge, and he was in charge of the national team, of the professional players, and scouting players. So it was impossible for him to give the service to all of them. So we were a little bit behind Nike, and we could see this because, for example, in the last year under 20 World Cup, from the 21 players in the roster, like about 17, 18 were Nike players. And the same happened in the under 17. So we were a little bit behind, but we are working, uh, looking forward for the World Cups next year, where we are going to have more players than Nike.
Wow, that's awesome. Also, quick question, Iñaki, do you work on the women's side as well in Mexico?
Yeah, but not that much. Women's soccer started here in Mexico about 2 years ago. It's relatively new, and we have about 8 female players. It's a market that it's growing, but we do have some players.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. And can you walk us through if there's any exclusive restrictions for players only wearing Adidas brand? So, in other words, if you have a player that has a boot deal with you guys, within those contracts, if you can share, are there any exclusive restrictions to where, if let's say they are to only be in Adidas clothing, or is there some leniency to where they can wear um, another
Uh,
brand, and it could just be a regular brand, but they have Adidas boots.
Well, while they are with their team, training, traveling, or in promotional appearances,
Mm-hmm.
they do have to wear Adidas products and ensure Adidas to have the visibility. But for example, if they have to attend prizes of FIFA or an award ceremony, obviously they can't wear Adidas products. They have to attend with a formal attire. So there's no problem if they have to wear like formal clothes. But beside that, they have to wear Adidas product at all times.
Okay,
Okay.
so like even let's say they go on the street and they're just gonna throw on like some sneakers. It usually has to be Adidas, correct? Like they can't wear any of your competitor brands, whether it's Nike, Reebok, I mean, or like
Exactly. That direct competitors, they can't use them, and they are not allowed to use Nike, Puma, or anything like that. But maybe players like to use expensive brands. Maybe they are using Gucci or Louis Vuitton that are not like competitors for Adidas. They are allowed
Right.
to use them.
oh, okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, bro, how can young players try to get your attention? Like what's the best way to go about it? Is it just performing well? Is it mixing that with social media as well? Where can they go or what should they do to attract you guys specifically?
For me, it's a mix of performing well in the pitch. That's the best way to get the attention of brands. But also social media it's really important. So I think they have to find a balance between both of them. But I think that what's going to get the attention of any brand is going to be called to the national team, to any youth team. The brands get the attention in that.
Man, that's very interesting because there aren't many player like brands like Adidas and Nike when those players make the national team. How important do you think it is for them to have a boot deal? Because as an agent in our industry, like next to your playing contract, your boot deal is literally the next or most important deal that agents, I would say, or even players like to check off their list. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I made the national team, now it's my boot deal. So how important do you guys think it is for you to sign those players, like, and how early do you guys start signing players?
For us, it's really important because, as I mentioned before, we want to be the brand with the most players in the roster in the World Cup 2026. So we try to ensure having the best players in the national team. So at the moment they get in the national team, we try to sign them. Uh, and at the moment, the youngest player we have, he has 12 years, but he's the only guy we have from that age. We really start looking at players when they are around 15 years old. That's the first national team they go to, the under 15. But for example, our co-workers in Brazil or in Argentina, they have told us they sign players when they are around 9, 10 years old.
Wow.
But I think that's because it's a different market, in Argentina or in Brazil. You can find top players that are going to play in Europe in the future. Here in Mexico, it's not that common to find players who go to Europe, so we have to uh, lower the risk by signing players a little bit older. So they have, in the other hand, Brazil and Argentina have to sign them younger because they know they have really good players at all levels. And if they don't sign them, Nike is going to sign them.
Right.
That's interesting.
Speak
Another
very interesting. And speaking of those type of deals, does Adidas offer lifetime deals? I mean, we see this with competitors like if we're talking about Nike or, some even with New Balance or Under Armour, but does Adidas offer lifetime deals? So let's say to a player such as Messi and Leo Messi, and what, obviously with his brand, amazing brand, um, are those type of deals with Adidas? I mean, I'm very curious because I have not heard of lifetime deals being offered through Adidas, but I'm curious, so I figured why not ask that question to you.
And to be honest, I'm not really sure. I guess Messi is going to have a lifetime deal. Uh, it's impossible to not think it that way because of all he has done in the soccer field. But I'm not really sure because, for example, the longest deal we have in Mexico can be 6 years, but we are not even close to having one of a lifetime deal.
So for usually when you sign one of the younger players, how long do you guys usually try to lock down, let's say a 16-year-old for? Is it the 6 years, or do you guys try to break that down into like 2, 3, or 4?
We try to sign every player, whether they are professional or whether they are scouting players, in a World Cup cycle, like 4 years, for example. All the guys we have signing right now, we try to have them until 2022. And at the moment that we renew their contracts, it's going to be until 2026. So we try to sign them for 4 years.
That makes perfect sense, because in that 4 years you have the Gold Cup, you have one World Cup as well, so you're getting
Confederations Cup.
Federations
We
Cup and
have
everything.
a lot of important cups or tournaments, and we have them locked them down for those.
And even the youth tournaments as well, because the CONCACAF under youth tournaments happen every 2 years.
Exactly. So we have them for the under 17 and for the under 20 World Cup.
That's perfect. That is perfect, Inaki. So, Inya,
Yeah.
before we wrap this up, where can the viewers find you, and where can the viewers find you on social media, all of that? Because we definitely want them to be able to see all the great work you've done for Adidas. And also, bro, what's next for you with Adidas? What are your personal goals?
They can find me on Instagram as Inaki, lowercase d, Inaki, lowercase d. And well, my next steps in Adidas, I would like to be in charge, to be the manager of professional players. I really enjoy at the moment working with scouting players, but I think I can do a good job managing the professional players, because many of them I played with them at the young levels. So I have many friends, and I think I could manage them.
Yeah, most definitely, bro. I think you got in at a great time because you're still young, and I didn't even know, just from my standpoint, that Adidas was so young in Mexico. I thought you guys were there for plenty of years, especially on the youth side. So for you to get in now and join the team, because it sounds like you joined the team as soon as it really took off and began. So congrats to you, bro, and
Thank
all
you.
the best. I'm really excited to see what you guys have coming up after COVID, once this is all over, because like when I run into you at the CONCACAF tournaments, we always bet on which team's gonna perform better, whether it's Canada or Mexico. So I'm not gonna lie, I was happy when my under 15s beat you guys, but but it's always, man, it's always a pleasure. I think has the best talent in North America. I think so, and I think your brand does a great job with bringing you guys on. And when from our conversations, they really do take care of you guys on the Adidas side. So
Yeah.
really, and for the viewers that are listening, it's great for you guys to hear an insight on how scouting works from like a branding side and sponsorship side, and for the younger players who are listening as well to know like what goes into a boot deal and what to expect and what to not expect, and like some false claims about them just getting millions and millions of dollars off their first boot deal versus what it actually is. So thank you so much for giving us your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Inaki, for joining us today. Very informative and insightful, and can't thank you enough.
Thank you, both of you, for the invitation. I hope to see you really soon, Nate, in any CONCACAF tournament.
Oh yeah, definitely, bro. Once this is all over, I definitely need to make a trip down and see you guys and some of the talent there, just from an agency standpoint. Definitely.
Sure, no problem. We can go to see many teams. Don't worry about it. I'll get that fixed.
Perfect, bro. Thank you so much, man.
Awesome.
Thank you both.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you once again.
You're welcome.